Thank you. Okay, we're in. Shkoyach. Okay. Baruch Hashem. We're just a lot of technical issues, but okay. We're in. Okay. Shalom. No, it was said it's supposed to be recording on YouTube and Bezos Hashem. Okay, so for today, got it. Okay, live streaming. Great. Gewaldic. We're in. Now, we're going to start today. Actually, I could leave it not shared for a second. A little bit of stories about who we're going to be learning from the Beis Yaakov. That's the son of the Ishbitzer Rebbe, of the first Ishbitzer Rebbe. He was the second Ishbitzer Rebbe. His father was Mordechai Yosef Leiner. Hey, Aryeh, Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem Shalom.
And shalom to you, Chris.
Yes.
What's the Hebrew name again? I forgot.
Chaim Simcha.
Right, Chaim Simcha. Shalom. So,
I wanted to share something, but it's okay.
Tell me afterwards, okay? Because it's going on to YouTube. As we're storing the shurim now on YouTube. So the Beis Yaakov is the second Ishbitzer Rebbe, and there are a few really sweet things to just know about him. One thing is that on Erev Shabbos, when he would go to the mikveh, every Erev Shabbos, he would always no, that was his father who would put. I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay. Here, just a couple stories about him. First of all, is that for Rosh Chodesh, today's Rosh Chodesh Elul, every Rosh Chodesh was with him mamish. He would make a real Suda. Sudas Rosh Chodesh hayam mamash kmo Yom Tov. He would make a full Suda with all of his family and his children, his sons and daughters-in-law, and his grandchildren. They would all be there every Rosh Chodesh. They would have a full Suda. He would dress in elegant clothing. One unbelievable story that his son was Rav Gershon Chanach Henech Radziner, the one who the Balat Chelis, the one who the Chassidish Chelis that people wear in Breslov. Breslov met. There was one of the great leaders of Breslov met the son of the Beis Yaakov, Rav Gershon Chanach Henech, and learned from him about the tchelis that he had discovered, and that's why many Breslovers wear his tchelis. So Rav Gershon Chanach Henech was the son of Rabbi Yaakov, was one time going up the stairs to his father, and as he was going up the stairs, he saw coming down the stairs an older chassid of his father's. The crazy thing was that this older chassid had already passed on to the next world. So he was a bit shocked, and he goes up to his father. Who, by the way, who's writing this is Rav Gershon Chanach Henech's son. Wrote this story, so that his father told him this about his grandfather. That, and he went and he asked his father, "What's going on here?" And he said, "Well, listen, this chassid of mine was a very wealthy man, and many times that he came and brought me a gift of money, he mamish knew somehow Hashem helped him. He davened. He always helped me out exactly when I needed it. He was always right there for me when I needed him. And so now, even though he's up in Shemayim, the kanireh, there's such a thing even in heaven that once in a while you need someone to daven for you." So he says, every once in a while, when he needs me, what does that mean in Shemayim? Something came up, he needs me. But because he was so there for me while he was alive, so he's zeicha that he comes and visits me sometimes, even after. Unbelievable. This is the Helig of this Yaakov that we're learning from. At the end of his life, his grandson found something that he had written, which I thought was very, very apropos to our generation, really blew my mind. Matzati bekitve kodsho. He wrote down in his holy hand, Miyom shenolad ha'adam HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzofar li. We found like a note where he had written this, that from the day that a person is born, Hashem is watching that person's heart. And Hashem is collecting every time that person does things with real kavanah l'shem shemayim. So every person that gets born, Hashem is mamish watching their heart and collecting every time they do something l'shem shemayim. And if he finds 3 times that you really had good kavanah, then Hashem says, Kan anidar v'nisot nosen mishkani b'socho. I'm going to dwell with this yid, and I'm going to put my shechina with him. And he says, and what's his example of this that he wrote? And so apropos today with our whole internet world. If a person is walking in the marketplace, v'otzeim einav meros bira, and closes his eyes from looking at the bad. Mamish, we're pummeled with so much bad. Whatever flavor, you can find it online. it's the negativity that's used to sell newspapers. It's the negativity now that sells the websites. All kinds of negativity. But if we can close our eyes from this, that when Hashem sees a yid closing his eyes, he's talking about the marketplace from some little town in Poland, right? The Kalva Chaimer for us today. The grandson found this little note that he wrote down. It says, when Hashem looks at a yid who closes his eyes in the marketplace, he says, Zehu Yisrael asher becha es pa'ar. This is a yid that I will take my glory, that I will glorify myself in. It's amazing. Yisrael asher becha es pa'ar. The Gewalt. So we're going to start a long Torah from him. That's going to take us possibly the whole Elul, maybe. I don't know. I've never taught such a long, gewaldic piece of Ishbitz online, so I don't know how long it's going to take us. But we're going to just go on this adventure together, Mitzvah Hashem.
Can you send us a printable copy of it?
Yes,
so that,
yes, definitely.
You know,
I highly recommend that you can buy the Sefer. It's mamish a gewalt to have in your house. The Reb Shlomo learned from it all the time. The Beis
Anna,
Yaakov.
do we have Beis Yaakov? You know what Beis Yaakov is?
Ishbitzer.
Yeah.
But this is Chelik Vayikra on Parshas Bahar, and we're going to be learning Torah Hey. He has a lot of Torahs. It's going to be Torah Hey, and we're going to be learning this. It's going to take us at least 2 weeks, I think. It's going to take
like HebrewBooks.org. Maybe that could help you, Natan, with the Frierdiker Lubavitcher Rebbe would have had it.
It may well be in HebrewBooks.org. I don't know. If
I'm in Yerushalayim.org.
Yeah, you can get the
Easy to
Sefer.
find.
You can definitely get the Sefer. In the meantime, I'm sharing with you here on the screen.
Good.
And just sorry to back up, if this year is only going to be Ishbitz, or you're also you're going to do halachas of Shemitah too, or did I miss that?
No, right. The first half of this year is Ishbitz, and the second half is halachas of Shemitah.
Okay, cool.
Today we started a bit late. We had some technical issues, etc., etc. So we'll go till,
so I could get here on time.
Yeah, fine, Baruch Hashem. And so we'll go till like 4:15 today.
Tell me again, please, Beis Yaakov, which volume?
Volume Vayikra.
Vayikra.
I'm having trouble moving the page. Volume of Vayikra. Ois Hey. Parshas Bahar. Parshas Bahar. Torah number Hey.
Okay, yeah, we don't have that volume. Okay.
You can find it in Sfarim stores.
Yeah, question is, I have to buy a whole set. All right, just that.
Just by Vayikra. Yeah, it's good to have the set. It's a gewalt. It's not going to cost.
Yeah, it's good. I don't have room in my
Fine. said,
I
I'll
already
have-
have a warehouse full of sforim that I brought.
Oh, mamish. Wow.
More
wow.
sforim to put in the warehouse.
I totally hear
So
you.
you,
Well,
so you may find me twisting your arm to send the pages.
I can definitely send you without any trouble at all. The
Good,
pages,
please
you
do
just
it.
print them out.
Please
Yeah.
do it. Start today.
Yes, yes. B'ez Hashem
Okay.
Yisbarach, B'li neder. In fact, if you can send me an email to remind you, to remind me, I'll appreciate it.
You got
Okay.
it.
So he begins with the pasuk in Vayikra that got cut out a little bit from the picture. I have it here. Pasuk is Uvashana Hashvis Shabbos Shabbosan Tia La'aretz. Right? Sadcha Tizra. Right? Okay, no, he's got it. 1 second. Shabbos Hashem. 1 second. He's got it a little bit. Let's read it to you from the Beis Yaakov himself. He starts up from Vayikra Chafei, right at the beginning of Parshas Bahar. And he says, Kisavo Yuel Haaretz, when you're going to come to the Holy Land. V'daber shel Moshe behar Sinai lemor. This beginning of Parshas Bahar. Behar Sinai lemor. Daber b'nei Yisrael v'tar lahem. Speak to the Jewish people and tell them, Ki savo el haaretz asher ani nosim lachem. V'shavta haaretz lavish l'Hashem. Sheish shanim tizrak karmecha. 6 years you work it. 7th year is Shabbos. Okay, so he begins with this pasuk. Is this big enough? The letters get a bit bigger. Oh, it's too big. Oh, it only goes. Okay. V'samti makom la'am Yisrael unetativ v'shachen tachtav v'lo yirgaz oid v'leosifa od bnei avla la'noso kasher b'rishana. This is the end of this is Sefer Shmuel. Hashem is promising us that He's going to make a place for Am Yisrael where we can be mamish planted in the land. Unetativ v'shachen tachtav v'lo yirgaz od, to be able to dwell there without any more roges, without any more trouble, difficulty, agitation. No negative people will cause us suffering, as it was at first. Bir HaKosev. What is going on with this pasuk? Right? He's connecting it up with this verse, Sefer Shmuel. This pasuk is not only talking about the times of David HaMelech and the Bais Rishon. It's talking about the future, about Mashiach. That in the great future, Hashem is going to show every Yid mamish his place in the world. Mamish his place in the world. And he's going on this idea of being planted in the land of Tativ. I'm going to show them their place in the world. Because in this world, Hashem has hidden this. It is hidden from the person. A person does not know their place in this world. What does it mean, their place? Hainu hachayim shelo. What? Whoops. Oh, that's even better. Hachayim shelo. What is my life about? Right? Who am I? Like the deepest question, you know? There's no book. There's no one who's gonna just tell me who I am. I can't. It's like this process, and you know, we get these little hints here and there. He says nowadays in Olam Hazeh, this great secret of our true place in the world, of what my life energy is all about, is hidden. The Iker HaChaim, what is life like today? Humehat study. Today, life comes in, so to speak, like from the sides. What does that mean? Hainu mehispashtus midosav. That means that life comes in and we receive life in the way that we relate to our character traits. What does that mean? Hainu midas, hainu mechesed ugvura, which particularly all of the midos, even though there are 7 character traits, generally speaking, from chesed to yesod to malchus, but they're all in a certain way different kind of combinations of chesed and gvura. These are the kind of 2 primary colors of love and, let's say, strictness. What's this? As the pasuk says in Mishlei, Per Chaf Daled, that with tachbulos, that means you have to have a kind of a sophistication to make, to weather the kind of struggles of life. He's going to explain this with an analogy. But what this means? He just said that life comes to us instead of being a kind of essential sense of who I am in the world. Instead, life comes to us from the sides, and we have to deal with chesed and gvura and how they are mitpashet. He's mispashtus midosav, this expansiveness of my character traits and how I deal with them. So now he brings in an incredible analogy, an incredible metaphor to explain this. Hainu kemo rav hachovel. What this is like the captain of a ship. Haholechim hasfina, that he's going with his boat and he needs to be the captain of the ship. So how does he do it? If he sees this, the wind is easterly wind on the side of the ship. So what does he do? He sets up all the sails from the west to kind of catch it and push it forward with the hand. They know how to make the right angle and catch the wind. So instead of the easterly wind blowing the ship over, it catches it and blows it forward, right? So there's an excess of wind from one direction. So I learn how to handle this from the side of the ship so that it'll push me forward. A good captain of the ship knows how to do this, right? This is not something that is a lasting kind of salvation for the ship, right? The whole issue of the captain of the ship is he constantly has to be watching the wind, watching the sunsets, watching the waters and knowing, what he has to do with each situation. It's constantly shifting and changing based on factors that are coming to him from the side. As this is what life is like for us. It's only according to what's happening at the very moment. And so it is too, B'olam hazeh, our life in this world. Hachayim shel ha'adam hu mehatzadim. The life that we live is all from the sides. What does he mean by this? He said before, he's pashtus midos means I feel within myself, or I feel from outside me some extra pull towards an expansive sense of chesed, that I'm throwing myself into, I don't know, my job. It's lucrative, there's good people, I'm excited, But then I notice, oh, wait a minute, it's at the expense of my family. I better limit this and put a sail up in such a way that this doesn't blow the ship over. If I throw myself completely into it, gewalt, it's not going to work, right? Or it could be the opposite. It could be sometimes a person gets very idealistic and they're in bidud all day with their family, say, to heck with work. Who needs it? And meanwhile, the bank account is going down, down, down. And it's also, there has to be a sense of what am I going to do? But these are these different factors that ultimately, they're not really about who I am, right? They're kind of just about getting by in this world. They have different mixes of things that can come from within me. Sometimes I can feel like X or feel like doing Y. Sometimes it's more of a chesed type of thing or more gevura type of thing. Sometimes there's a situation outside of me, more of a chesed type of thing, more of a gevura type of thing. And we learn to become, Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach, to become like captains of the ship, to man the sails, starboard, eastbound. I don't even know what they yell on the ships. But they find all kinds of ways to, it's always busy, you have to know, and you become more weathered captain. Mazel tov, it's great. And we have to do this. I mean, we really there's almost no other way. This is how Hashem sets up the world. Iker hachaim hu mehat stadim. The essence of life is really just kind of about navigating the swells and dips, the winds and the sun and all the different factors, and we learn how to navigate, which is great, and our efforts are of great value. But then there's like a whole different question, which is, but who am I underneath all of this? Who am I without all of these factors that maybe they bring out a certain amount of who I am, but who am I really from the inside? What's the word? Inherently, without, not just because of how I respond to other things. Who am I? Just me. What's my soul about, right? So we're going to see that the Shemitah year is a gewalt, because the Shemitah year contains, as does every Shabbos, contains this amazing thing of finding our place in the world, this amazing degree of an inherent sense of self, who I am, mamish, before, not just what I do and how good I get at navigating the ups and downs of life, but who am I, mamish, underneath the whole thing. Every Shabbos has that, every Shemitah has that, and particularly, as we're going to see, every Yovel, the Yovel year. Shemitah is every 7 years, and the Yovel is every 50. And ultimately, the Shemitah, as holy and incredible as it is, it gets us to the Yovel year. We're going to learn about this. It's going to take time. It's going to go slow. Be'ezus Hashem. But it's exciting, first of all, just to have this taste of things, that let's just go back a little bit and look at his wording. That this pasuk in Shmuel, the Samti Makom La'ami Yisrael, I'm going to give them a real place. When a tativ, and it sounds like it's talking on the national level, on the klal level. When a tativ, I'm going to plant them, v'shachein tachtav, and they'll dwell there. Lo yirgaz, there will be no more agitation, no trouble, no one cause them suffering anymore, as it was once. He says, this isn't just talking about the klal. He says, the meaning of this verse is Shela Asid Yare Hashem Yisbarach L'chol Echad MiYisrael Es Makoma. That in the future, in the great future, Hashem is going to show each one of us our real place. Our place. It's very interesting that this idea that who I really am, in a certain way, it's like the existential space, that part of creation that's carved out, that's called Leibish 100, that's just for me, that's just who I am in the world, your makom in the world, the place that is a reshut hayachid. It's no one else can, I can communicate deeply in everything and be friends with you. I could even marry my wife and have a gewaldic deep relationship, but no one else can be in the same makom that I am. Who I am it's such a deep, amazing thing. Hashem Mamish gives each of us a makom. It's like incredibly profound, and the trouble is, in this world we don't see it. In the future, Hashem's going to show us our makom. He's going to show us what that makom is. Ki ba'olam hazeh helimoto, in this world, we can't even see our own space. We're living in it, but we don't see it. All we see are the ups and downs and dealing with the winds, and our life energy is coming from the sides. As he says, Shenelam min ha'adam makomo. In this world, our real place is hidden. We get so swept up, in terms of agriculturally and talking about land, we get so swept up in the produce and in the marketplace and in the whole, back and forth. Mekach u'memkar. Hanu hachayim shelo ve'ikar hachayim hu me'atzdadim. The essence of our life today, it only comes in from the sides. It means the way we experience life now. Where do I see Leibish 100 come out? Is as a captain of a ship, learning how to deal with the ups and the downs and how to push in the other direction and make the whole thing propel the ship forward, which is amazing and which is an expression of myself, which is wonderful and deep and great. But it's not quite the full thing of who I am. It's still just who I am responding to outer factors, right? So that's like, as we're going to see, that's kind of the life of the 6 years, of the 6 days of the week. And then there's something incredible we're going to learn. Shabbos, Shemitah, getting closer and closer to that depth, whose ultimate expression, as we're going to see, is in the Yovel year, the 50th year. It takes a whole 50 years to get to that place. We'll see it little by little, Be'ezus Hashem. Now, we're going to turn to the halacha dimension, and we'll start with a kind of introduction. So, sorry, that's not.
I just want to say,
yeah,
thank you so much. These exact, especially just making Aliyah, like so many of these questions are so live for me right now, and to be because also moving to Eretz Yisrael, like there's something unique about living in Eretz Yisrael, just like Shemitah is unique to Eretz Yisrael. Like it pushes, for my experience so far, it pushes one to really, if you don't know exactly what you're about, you get like there's more energy, like my friend said, it's more in high definition, so everything is more confusing. So I think like when you think about that, like Shemitah, that doesn't really apply chutz la'aretz. Like also a lot of these questions aren't as maybe live and real. Obviously, the Shvitzer was in chutz la'aretz when he wrote this, but I think there's something unique about like Shemitah in Eretz Yisrael dealing with these questions. Is very
absolutely, absolutely. It's amazing the depths of connection that these Rebbes had in sitting in Poland. Ishbitz is a town in Poland. It's amazing, but I'm sure, we are their envy. Here we are here, Baruch Hashem. It's absolutely incredible, and it's a huge chus, and just sending bracha to everyone listening, everyone who will hear this recording, to get here soon. It's Hashem. So here, this now we're turning to the halacha dimension. If you can, I don't want to add to this. I can send you as we give the sheet, as I'm giving the shurim, I can send you in advance the sources. All going to be from the same sefer called Mishpatei Aretz. It's 2 volumes of this size. I highly recommend it because it really does give you not just the laws of Shvis, but all the agricultural laws of Eretz Yisrael. This
can you show it again, and I'll take a screenshot of it.
Yeah. Oh, do you want me to wait? I'll stop the share.
No, it's perfect. All right, we're good.
This sefer is the fruit, shall we say, of a very special kollel, headed by Gaon Rabbi Yosef Yekasiel Efrati. Rav Efrati Shlita is perhaps the main student of Rav Eliashiv Zatzal. Rav Eliashiv is one of the great poskim of Eretz Yisrael. He passed away, I'm not sure, I think about 10 years ago. And Rav Efrati heads a kollel that all they do all day long, all year long, year after year, is just learn the halachas of the agriculture in Eretz Yisrael, all Zraim, all the halachas of Zraim of Eretz Yisrael. And they have a beautiful building right when you're on your way into Har Nof. You can see it. It's like on the right. It's a very beautiful building that they have, and it's like a very serious institution. And this is their sefer. So to begin over here, today we're just gonna talk outside about, when we will get to one or two halachas, and then tomorrow we'll dive all the way in to the halachas of shemittah. Oops. Yeah. This one. Sorry. No. Sorry about this. No. Now. Wait. Oh shoot. 1 second. Sorry. Ah. Okay, but that's still not the right page. There we go. Okay, sorry about this. Okay. They're also bringing the psukim from Parshas Bahar, the beginning of Parshas Bahar. And this Uveshana Shvis Shabbos Shabbosim Yela Art Shabbos Lashem. And then the Torah mentions 4 things you're not allowed to do. This we saw when we were learning Mishnayos, but always good to go over. Sadcha lo tizra, do not plant your field. V'karmecha lo tizmor, do not reap. Tizmor means to prune your vineyard. Et tzviach k'tzircha lo tiktzor, do not cut that which grows. Sfiach means those things which grow of their own accord without having been planted on the Shemitah year, but they just grow because since there was, let's say, wheat there last year, so while you were harvesting it, some seeds are going to fall back in, and there'll be some new ones that will grow. That's called sfichim. As we're gonna learn a lot about sfichim. At sfiach k'tzircha, so the Torah says, at sfiach k'tzircha lo tiktzor, don't reap that which is there to be reaped. Right now, we're going to see that this does not mean that you cannot reap at all, because otherwise, what are you going to eat at all? And especially since the pasuk goes on to say, that the Shabbos of the land will be to you to eat. We're meant to eat on the Shemitah year the produce of the land. So what does it mean, lo tiktzor? It means lo tiktzor kederech hakotzrim. Don't harvest in bulk. If you do harvest in bulk, it's an Isser Torah. It's a biblical prohibition. If you harvest just a little bit as needed, little by little, then not only is it permissible, but according to the Ramban holds it's a mitzvah to eat the fruits of Shemitah. A mitzvah. You're doing a mitzvah when you eat the fruits of Shemitah, according to the Ramban. The pasuk says it's there for you to eat. Others hold, the Rambam does not hold like that. Most Rishonim don't hold like that it's a mitzvah to eat the fruits. They hold it's a heter to eat the fruits. But however way you look at it, we're definitely supposed to eat the fruits. We'll speak more when we get to the holiness of the fruits of Shemitah. What is that holiness and what is that about? What is it conceptually and what is it halachically, as we'll see.
Sorry, can I just ask a clarifying question? When you say it's a heter, meaning to say it's like parv.
Yeah.
Like you could eat it if you want.
Yeah.
Right. You could do whatever you want. That's like it's okay.
It's not.
I guess it's not a mitzvah. Because in my mind, like I don't know, mitzvah heter feels like really low, but I guess it's just like one drop low. Like, or it's a mitzvah, or it's just like a thing in the world, like sitting down. Like it's a heter.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just something you can do. So but as we're going to see, the definition of the holiness of the fruits of shemittah does imply, even according to those Rishonim who say it's not a mitzvah, it does imply that there's something very special about eating them. Because there is a kedusha, the Talmud Yerushalmi compares the holiness of the fruits of shemittah to the holiness of sacrifices. That there's a certain it's not just the definition of the holiness of the fruits of shemittah is not just that you're, as we're going to see, you're not allowed to cause them to be destroyed, or you're not allowed to do business with them. The definition of the holiness of the fruits of shemittah is that they are from Hashem, designated for us to eat them. Just the question, is it technically a mitzvah when you eat them? So according to the Ramban, it is, and even according to the Ramban, it's not. It's what we call a mitzvah kiyumis. It means if you eat it, you get a mitzvah, but it's not a mitzvah that you like must do. So you don't make a bracha, even according to the Ramban. You would never make asher kichem mitzvotav tzivanu al achilas perot shvis. There would not be a blessing on the eating of the fruits of shemittah. Even if he holds that it's a mitzvah. It's similar, for instance, to the Vilna Gaon holds that eating shmura matzah throughout Pesach, every time you eat shmura matzah, he holds that you're getting a mitzvah. But it's called, once again, a mitzvah kiyumis. This concept of a mitzvah kiyumis is very interesting. It's not something you must do, but if you do it, you did a mitzvah. There's a very short and kind of tantalizing tshuva from a Moshe Feinstein, that's all, about the mitzvah to move to Eretz Yisrael. And he says, I don't really understand it so well, because he writes, he doesn't give a big explanation. But he says, it must be that the mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael is a mitzvah kiyumis, and not a mitzvah that you must get up and do. Because if it was, where were all the tzaddikim through all the generations? How come they didn't all come here? If you have to do everything you can to get here. It's a mitzvah. If you get here, it's a mitzvah, but you don't have to. Anyway, that's a very far out two-liner, and I'm digressing. But in any case, what we're talking about here is that which the land produces, you may not harvest, and it doesn't mean that you can't harvest at all. It means you can't harvest kederech hakotzri. We're going to see this all inside in detail. And then it repeats another word for harvesting. The grapes, nazirecha, means the grapes that you guard, that are on your personal field. You shall not. And then livtzor is a word for harvesting again. It's the word for, in Hebrew you have different words for harvesting depending on what it is that you're harvesting. So bitzira is a word for harvesting grapes. And again, it doesn't mean you can't harvest grapes. It means you can't harvest grapes en masse in a way that is business-like. You can harvest the grapes for yourself, right? To relate it up to the chassidus that we said, is these halachas, these dinim of how you harvest, right? It's not just so that I can make money. I'm harvesting direct chayim for me, direct life energy, only what I actually need, literally subsistence, what I actually need. And each person takes what they need, right? These four things are biblically prohibited on a shemittah year. If anybody breaks them, then the punishment is lashes. In addition to these four that are biblically, there's another two that are also biblically prohibited, even though they're not mentioned in the verse. That is to plant trees Because even though it says lo tizra, but lizroa is like seeds of wheat, and lintoa means seeds or saplings of trees. You're not allowed to plant trees whether they be fruit-bearing trees or barren trees. So not allowed to plant trees. That's another thing that's biblically prohibited. And another one is lachroishes hasados. You're not allowed to plow the fields or gardens. V'mata'im. Ach ein lokim alavodos. Even though these are prohibited biblically, but there are no lashes. Shar avodas hasada. Everything else on Shemitah is only rabbinic. This is we learned about when we were learning Shemitah. We were learning Mishnayos. Oh no, when we were learning Mishnayos. Where was it? I'm so sorry for this. When we were learning Mishnayos, we saw from Reb Shlomo Carlebach Hirsch a very important understanding of this. Why is it that on Shabbos, each type of malacha becomes a conceptual category, and there's a lot more things that are forbidden under that category? Sorry. Whereas in Shemitah, it's only a few specific things that are prohibited. It's only a few very specific things that are prohibited. Why? Why is it only those few things? So he said, because on Shabbos, Hashem is teaching us that He is the creator of the world and we are His creations. And so we have to desist from all different kinds of creative labor. So that includes much more than just 39 specific activities. It's 39 categories that include tons of other things, because creativity is a massive affair. Whereas on Shemitah, the purpose is for Hashem to show us that He owns the land and that He is giving it to us. And so to establish that He's the owner, it's enough to just prohibit these 6 things. That would be enough. Because anybody who can't plant and can't prune, pruning the vineyard is a major, is a majorly important thing to produce grapes. And you can't reap in a business-like way. You can only take exactly what you need. All of these things are showing that you're just receiving from Hashem, that it's Hashem's land really. And so you don't have to prohibit every single kind of thing, digging ditches, digging irrigation ditches, or all other types. There are many, many kinds of ways of maintaining and taking care of a gardener in a field. All of those are only rabbinic. Avodos d'Rabbanan, Shar avodos asada v'gina asuros midrabbanan. As we're going to see what all of these are, we'll get to chapter 2. Avodas d'Rabbanan hitiru lasos. What's that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is maybe like a bit high level, but like I know in some places the other than the punishment, I guess, the consequence of a mitzvah being d'Rabbanan or d'oraita is like if 2 mitzvahs come up against each other. Like you have a d'oraita and you have a d'Rabbanan, you would be Michael and the Rabbanan, and you'd be not. So, in terms of Shemitah, is there a consequence when some of the mitzvot are to Rabbanan? Like, would there maybe?
Yeah. So here's an example. This next thing is a great example. Avodos d'Rabbanan hitiru, the rabbis, when they created all of their prohibitions, they included within it a caveat, an allowance, that you're allowed to do some of them. That there are certain things, like for instance, you might sometimes see when there's a young sapling, there's a whole way of kind of tying it to hold it together so that it'll grow straight and grow in a nice way, right? So you're not allowed to do that to help the saplings to grow, to help them flourish. But if one of them, let's say, splits open, and if left alone, it'll split all the way and then it might die. So you're allowed to tie it together, not enough to actually close it and let them heal, because you can't cause positive growth on Shemitah, but you can do those things to stop further negative. So you could tie around it to hold it together, to not keep on splitting wider and wider. You can tie it to hold it as is. There's like a crack in the tree.
Right. And that's just so, but if I needed to plow
That's
the
only on the
field,
Durabanans, right? For the
Okay.
on a Deraisa, we wouldn't say that.
and right, because I knew that about Shemitah, but I didn't know that was only for the Ramadan.
Only on the Durabanans.
Okay.
So that you would the whole crop won't all die, or limnoa mehem nezakim, or to stop damages. But things that are forbidden biblically, even if it's gonna, even if
Wow.
somehow, I don't know, for some reason, my grapevine might die if I don't prune it or whatever it is.
That's a
nothing you
realistic
can do.
thing to say.
Is it?
Yeah, if you don't
Yeah.
prune, I mean, die, maybe certainly damage.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good example then. So you're not allowed, you can't prune the grapevine, because that's one of the deraisas. That's one of the
Right.
that's one of the
Even if,
biblical principles.
right, even if it will damage your vineyard in the long run.
Right. Again, there are also psukim in the Torah telling us how much bracha Hashem's going to give us and He'll take care of us. And this is so that's only insofar as those things that are biblically prohibited. But those things that are rabbinically prohibited, you don't have to say, oh, well, Hashem will take care of it. Those things that the rabbis themselves, only in order to make a fence around the law, in order to stop us from doing the biblical prohibitions, they said don't do all these other things that maintain fields. Well, if there's going to be damage, they did not put their fence around the law. You're allowed to do those rabbinic maintenances, as we're going to see in detail what these are. Finally here, so, and this is, we might dip into this also. Yeah, I think it looks like we have another 10 minutes or so. You're allowed to do the agricultural work in the 6th year, all the way up until Rosh Hashanah. This is he's talking about today, as we're going to see. We're going to see that when the Beis Hamikdash is standing and when Am Yisrael are back in Eretz Yisrael, there's going to be a month added of Tosefet Shemitah. Just like we light candles 18 minutes before Shabbos, and in Yerushalayim the minhag is a 30 minutes or 33 minutes or something like this before Shabbos. So
Pardes Chana.
is Tosefet Shemitah. Pardes Chana also has a minhag?
Yeah, all the 5 towns.
Wow. So you're allowed to do agricultural work in the 6th year today, all the way up until Shemitah, but to plant. Achlin toa etzim o lizroa v'lishtol yirakot, to plant trees or to plant new vegetables is only permissible up until a certain time, as we're going to see. We're going to start looking at those halachas today. Okay. What about things that grow in potted plants? Plants that grow within pots. Some they have certain halachas in certain ways are different. And we're going to see this. We're going to deal with this. This is a very up-to-date sefer. We're going to learn about hydroponics. We're going to learn about potted plants, indoors, outdoors, potted plants that are perforated, not perforated, and so on. There's Baruch Hashem, a lot to learn. And we'll dive in right now. And I just hope this is the first one here. Okay, sorry, it came in here a bit out of order, but here we go. And just one more thing by way of introduction is that almost everyone understands the Rambam in chapter 4 of Hilchos Shemittah, especially towards the end, to be holding that Shemitah will not become Deoraisa until we also have Yovel there being also present. And for Yovel to be in effect, we need Am Yisrael to come back to Eretz Yisrael. And it seems clear from the Rambam that not only do we need a majority of Am Yisrael to come back, but we need also Am Yisrael to each shevet, each tribe, to be here. I'm sorry.
That means the things that we were saying that were deraita are not deraita until that happens.
Right. Today, according to at the end of the day, the Chazon Ish and pretty much all of the poskim, there are some Rishonim who say that Shemitah even today is biblical. And there are some who even say that according to the Rambam, it's biblical. Some of the Farshim on the Rambam. But just about everybody, almost everyone, understands the Rambam to be saying that Shemitah today is Dirabanan, and most Rishonim hold this way, and that's how the Chazon Ish held. And therefore, there are certain leniencies, as we're going to see. Although it doesn't mean that all the deraisas are the same as Dirabanans today, we still keep the distinction because B'ezrat Hashem, soon the Beis Hamikdash will be here, Am Yisrael will all be back, and it will all be in effect. So we don't want to get used to being too lenient.
It's also like, you're maybe looking that up now, like every single shevet, it's like identify itself.
Right. That's right. That's what Rav Chaim Kanievsky in his commentary to the Rambam and Hilchos Shvis, he says that basically even if the majority of Jews end up being here, it's still not going to be there. I said, where is it? Oh my gosh, okay. My eyes are kind of failing me today. I'm going to find it for you tomorrow. Let's just learn inside for now, last couple minutes, and tomorrow we'll start the halacha section. I'll bring you again this language of the Rambam properly. And for now, let's just jump in here. What's that?
That's like soon that a majority of the Jewish people will be living in the land of Israel, but
B'ezrat Hashem.
It seems like Kanevsky is saying, Rav Kanevsky, excuse me.
Yeah.
Is saying even still, because that was a big. Isn't Rav Kook's whole thing dependent on it being Derabanan? That's what I always heard, right?
So you mean the Heter Mechira?
Heter Mechira.
Yeah. So we will get to the Heter Mechira in its time. We'll definitely deal with it and speak it out. What the Heter Mechira is about selling land in Israel to non-Jews.
Right.
Do we say that their acquisition of the land is, like, so to speak, halachically strong enough to make the fruits exempt from the laws of Shemitah, and that now we can even a Jew could go and work the land, and you can totally do all the different agricultural prohibitions and wheel and deal with it and sell it and everything, and everything becomes basically completely mutter? Or do we say that even today, when the holiness of Eretz Yisrael is D'Rabbanan, still, when you sell it to a non-Jew, his acquisition does not have the strength to take away the holiness of Shemitah and on his fruits, and a Jew would not be permitted to work his field, and fruits that are the produce, he himself is allowed to do agricultural work on Shemitah because he's not Jewish. But the fruits, any fruits that are purchased from him, have the holiness of Shemitah, cannot be bought and sold in a normal way in the marketplace, need to be eaten with special care to not destroy them, and so on. So we're going to get to all of this. That's a big controversy to this very day. There's a lot of there was even an Israeli court case. we'll see, where someone said, well, he broke some zoning laws or something like this, and he said, well, it's not my field, it belongs to the non-Jew, because he was doing the heter mechira. And the Supreme Court of Israel in 2007, apparently, I just saw this in the corner of my eye yesterday. We'll look at it in its time, but they said no, it's not a real sale, the heter mechira.
Wow.
Which is not good for the heter
Very
mechira.
Haredi.
Right. So Rav Breitman, who was the Rav HaRashi at the time, I don't know if he still is, of Tenuva, wrote a whole tshuva saying that even though the Supreme Court doesn't uphold the heter mechira, it's still valid. So the controversy rages. We'll get to it in its time. Bezos Hashem. But here, let's just see this, at least the one halach over here. In a few minutes. Avodos haaretz hasuras b'shana hashvis noheg yisuran mi Rosh Hashanah ad shvis shel shvis ad Rosh Hashanah shel shminis. The agricultural prohibitions start on Rosh Hashanah and go till the next Rosh Hashanah. Right? They start this year Aleph Tishrei and of the 7th year until Aleph Tishrei of the 8th. Halachah l'Moshe miSinai. We have a oral tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu that is not derived from a verse. Sheyesh lahosif al zman zeh. We must add. We have to do tosefet shvis v'lo lavod avodas haaretz 30 yom lifnei Rosh Hashanah, for 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. Tosefet zu nikras b'lashon chachamim tosefet shvis. This is called adding time to the 7th year. Halacha zu nemer rak lizman shebeis hamikdash. This is different from any idea of majority of Jews. Again, as we'll talk about tomorrow, majority of Jews. This one is about the Beis HaMikdash itself, because it's connected up to another halacha l'Moshe miSinai, which is the water libations. The water libations, the pouring of the water on the Mizbeach, on the Nisuch HaMayim, on Sukkos, which is also halacha l'Moshe miSinai. And since they were taught together by Moshe Rabbeinu, the Talmud derives, the beginning of a Sechet Moed Katan, that just like you can't have water libations without a Beis HaMikdash, that's ridiculous. You need a Mizbeach and a whole Beis HaMikdash to do it. So too, because it was taught next to it, Moshe Rabbeinu meant us to know that Tosefet Shvis, adding of a month to the time of Shvis, also only applies when there is a Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, Bizman Hazeh, Mutaras Kol Avodas Haaretz Ad Erev Rosh Hashanah, Samach L'Shkias HaChama. So therefore, today, we're allowed all the workings of the land until the day before Rosh Hashanah, just before the setting of the sun. Okay, we're going to see, though, as he mentioned right before, that there are exceptions to this in terms of plantings, as we're going to understand more about that tomorrow. There is no halacha of Tosefet Shvis today. But there are still limitations that we have in terms of planting. As he explains, you cannot plant fruit-bearing trees right up until Rosh Hashanah. If you're going to plant fruit-bearing trees to this very day, you are already forbidden to plant fruit-bearing trees in Eretz Yisrael. How much earlier? It has to be earlier enough that in the 6th year, that the 6th year will be considered the first year of that tree's life in counting L'Sfiras Nos Orla. Remember, Orla is that for the first 3 years of a tree's life, you cannot eat its fruit. In the 4th year, you must take the fruit or its monetary equivalent to Yerushalayim and eat it there. And only from the 5th year does Hashem permit the eating of the fruits of the tree. And the pasuk adds that Hashem will add blessing in that 5th year, and the merit of not having eaten for 3 and then having the 4th year in Yerushalayim. So you have to eat. You have to plant. When you plant this tree, this fruit-bearing tree, so its first year needs to count as year 6. So how early does that need to be? So this is explained here. Bring it from the Rishonim. The Ramban and the Ritva say it out very clearly. You're not allowed to plant it so close to Shemitah. Why not? Because in order for the 6th year to be considered its first year, you need 30 days of year 6. So the plant has to be planted, or the tree has to be planted at least 30 days before. And then you need another 2 weeks, because it takes 2 weeks for the klita. You know, like when you come there, you go to Merkaz Klita. Right? Liklot means when the seed starts to connect to the earth, and a shoot puts out roots and starts to shoot up a sprout. That's called klita. It takes 2 weeks for that to happen. So Tu B'Av is basically the day. There's some controversy if it's the 16th of Av or the 15th of Av. I'm not going to get into that. But you have basically from Tu B'Av are the 2 weeks it takes for the seed to start to take root. And then the 30 days will count as year 1. So year 1 is now the 6th year of the Shemitah cycle. If I would have planted it, let's say the day before Rosh Hashanah, I didn't break Shemitah. Because I planted it during a time where nowadays there's no Tosefet Shemitah. The trouble is, what's going to be the year 1 for that tree? It will be the Shemitah year. So people are going to see you in the 5th year of the Shemitah cycle, right? Or let's say it'll be the 4th year of the Shemitah cycle. Shemitah is kind of like year 0 because it's 7, right? And then 1, right? So its first year is going to be 7, and then 1, 2, and then in the 3rd year of the Shemitah cycle, you're going to be bringing it to Yerushalayim and eating it. And people say, wait a minute, he's eating it in the 3rd year of the Shemitah cycle. That means it's its 4th year. That means he planted it on Shemitah, right? So people are going to think that you didn't. You planted it in the 6th year, but you didn't have the month post Klita for you to be able to count year 6 as the first year of its Orla. So therefore, if you plant it before Tu B'Av, then you're good because the seed does its Klita. Now it's considered starting to grow, starting on which day? Rosh Chodesh Elul. That's today, right? Well, and it starts to grow Rosh Chodesh Elul. Good. Now I've got a whole 30 days till Rosh Hashanah. Perfect. 30 days is enough. Shloshim Yom Chashuv Shana. 30 days enough to be considered a full year. So now, year 6 is the first year of Orla. So year 7, 2nd year of Orla. And then that first year of the next Shemitah cycle is the 3rd year. And then in year 2, you're going to be eating it in Yerushalayim. People say, of course, you're eating it now in year 2 because 4 years ago you planted it, which was year 6. Great. No one will think you planted a Shemitah. Yeah.
So that's only the usher then is only on fruit trees. Like if I wanted to plant
That's right.
a non-fruit tree right now, that would be okay.
So we're going to see this. I think I might actually have it. I'd say Sirach. What about non-fruit bearing trees? I'd say Sirach, Siche Prachim, flower bushes, Siche Noi, other kinds of bushes that you have for beauty. V'sichei bosem she'ein bahem iser or lor, and any or something that you're planting that like let's say hadasim that you're for smelling, right? Different kinds of herbs that are not connected to the iser of orla. They're not connected to the law of not eating fruits for 3 years. Mutter lintoa ad Rosh Hashanah, right? Just like you said. V'yeshomrim shemuter rakad tuba elul v'yeshomrim tedzayin k'dei shiklatu lifnei Rosh Hashanah. So some hold you need klita to happen before shemittah. What's the question about this? Is when the Torah says that the earth shall rest, does that mean mamish the earth? Because if it means mamish the earth, then if the klita didn't happen before the Shemitah year, then that means that you're kind of work in a certain way, using the earth's work to get the seed to do its klita during Shemitah year. Even though everything grows, it's not like the earth doesn't do anything. The earth, things grow, but because you planted it so close to Shemitah, you're kind of making it have its klita on Shemitah. And the Reb Chaim Kanievsky says on that it's a question. He said the Chazon Ish said you could be lenient. You could be lenient. That means that you could plant right up until Rosh Hashanah. Here there's a machlokes. And this is something we didn't mention. We skipped over it. But fruit-bearing trees, if there's enough earth that are still connected, let's say I uproot a tree and I want to replant it. So for the laws of Orla, if you uprooted together with the tree a lot of earth, like a lot of times when you go and buy a tree, you buy them and they're in a pot and there's a whole bunch of earth and there's enough earth that's attached to the roots that the tree is very much alive. So then you do not reset the Orla clock if its roots still have all that earth connected to it. So that's also an exception in terms of fruit-bearing trees. When you are, so last Friday, right, because Shabbos was Shabbos, but last Friday was the last day that you could uproot a tree with the earth still attaches and put it, because it already has its klita, right, in that earth. And when you put it in, it's still going with its Orla clock, and it's got its 30 days, right?
Are we talking even fruit-bearing trees, or only the ones that are for attraction or smell?
Right. So even fruit-bearing trees up until Rosh Chodesh Elul. Other trees, when you've got without the earth, there's some who hold you could plant them even right into Rosh Hashanah. Most hold that way. Some hold you want to give them the klita before Shemitah starts. I told you Reb Chaim said the Chazon Ish is lenient, but Reb Chaim, you can sort of feel from the way he presents it that he wants to be maybe strict on this, that there's something fun. I'm calling it fun. There's something fun about not making the earth work. Like if you plant and you're going to make the klita happen on Shemitah year, even though you already planted before, but if better to have the whole klita happen before. So that's this opinion, which is ultimately, if the Chazon Ish says you could be lenient, you could be lenient. Like it's ultimately you could call it a chumrah, not to plant even non-fruit bearing trees, even bushes, even up until you would only have until the 15th, or some say the 16th of Elul. But even according to the chumrah opinion, if you're planting the non-fruit bearing tree with a chunk of earth and its roots already from wherever it was before, that you could do right until Rosh Hashanah. כשמעבירים גוש העפר שסביב שורשיו במקומו הקודם, או מעציץ, מותר לנטוע עד ראש השנה. Then you could plant it right up until Rosh Hashanah. Okay, Gewalt. This is a great start. Shkoyach Chevra, Ashreinu Matov Chalkenu. It's just simcha to be learning the depths of it, learning the halachas together. Mamish, in the 30 days before, it's like Friday afternoon, like Mamish going into Shemitah together. That's Hashem Yisbarach. Thank you so much.